Welcome back, everybody, for another review. Today we're going to be talking about a movie called The Rule of Jenny Penn. So this movie's directed by a guy named James Ashcroft, who he did a movie a few years ago that premiered at Sundance called Coming Home in the Dark that I never got to see. It's one I was really interested in, but I never got around to seeing. And then, of course, reviews came out from Sundance. A lot of people was like, yeah, it wasn't for me, and all that good stuff. So I don't know. It's still one that I would be interested in checking out just to see because my opinion is vastly different from a lot of other people that I've noticed. Plus, I seem to really like Opus, and that was another one that got kind of reviews at Sundance. But again, it's the beauty of art. So, but that's another one I'd like to check out. If you guys have seen his other movie, Coming Home in the Dark, let me know what you think about that one. This movie stars John Lithgow and Jeffrey Rush, two really fantastic actors. And essentially, this movie is Jeffrey Rush. His character is a judge who has like a stroke, and he gets put in this home to recover, to try to be able to walk again and get his mobility and stuff back. And within that time, he realizes that most of the people in this home, or whatever you want to call it, this facility, is tormented by a guy who is played by John Lithgow, who uses this puppet and essentially just torments the living shit out of everybody that's there. I don't know. I thought this movie was a really good thriller because not only are you really in this one location throughout the movie, but you add to the effect that, like, Jeffrey Rush's character is in a wheelchair, so he's limited on the stuff that he can do. That adds more to that claustrophobic, pressure cooker situation that you're in, because you're just waiting for anything to explode at any given time. Jeffrey Rush does a great job too of being that guy that's not gonna, that's standing up to this guy. It's like he's not taking any shit. He's like, this is bullshit. I'm not putting up with it. I'm already here. I'm having to deal with this shit, and now you're telling me I got to deal with this. He's like, hell no. So he's not, he's not having any of that. But of course, it's one of those movies to where he tries to tell the staff, he tries to tell other people, and of course, nobody wants any part of it. The staff is like, yeah, well, he said you did this, or she said this, and blah, 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 blah. So they make him look like, of course, like he's the crazy one. And of course, the other occupants that are there in this facility, they want nothing to do with it because they're afraid John Lithgow is just going to make their life more of a living hell. So it's one of those things where you're like, well, you can see what's going on, so you get frustrated with Jeffrey Rush because you're like, just listen to the guy, just please listen to him. Man, John Lithgow, man, he can do so much. Like, his range is absolutely amazing. He seems like the sweetest guy in the world, but then he can go do roles like the Trinity Killer from Dexter, and you're like, whoa. And then, like, literally he goes and does a role like in Daddy's Home 2, and you're like, dude, the range on this guy is unreal. So he is great at doing this sadistic, twisted guy who just loves messing with these people. What I really appreciated about this movie was it's the same thing like I talked about in for Opus, is that for me it had this just sense of dread throughout the movie, because the whole time you're like, dude, this guy's up to something, and you're like, what is he going to do? Because the dude is so unhinged. At any given time, you don't know what this guy's going to do. And it builds it in a way to where you're constantly like, again, where you're just like on the edge of your seat because you're waiting to figure out what's going to happen. But it's like it keeps building and building, like I was talking about earlier, how you're waiting for something to explode at any given second. Because, you're like, how long is people going to take this shit for? So it blends this thing of dread and tension so well together that weaves it through this story that you're enthralled. And that's the thing with Jeffrey Rush. You like this guy. You can sympathize with what he's going through. So you're rooting for him the whole time. You want him to get out of this situation. So that adds more to the tension of people not believing him, and then him being confined to this wheelchair. And it's just like you're in a situation that you're stuck. Like you've got no way out. And that is just, in real life, that is terrible. That is terrifying. And this movie's got some really good creepy factors to it as well. Like, John Lithgow's got this puppet, this hand puppet. Her name, of course, is Jenny Penn. And essentially that's what he uses a lot to torment these poor people with. Not only does he use it to, like, scare them, but he uses it almost as, like, this humiliation tactic because he knows there's nothing they can do, and half of these people, they can't call for help, or he does something to. He always has something up his sleeve to make it look like he was never there. He didn't do anything, and you're one of those movies where you're like, God, and as the movie goes along, there's like this mystery for John Lithgow's character. You're like, okay, you start to ask questions or ask yourself these questions about why this guy's doing this, why is he the way that he is, who is this guy, and there is some. I do appreciate it because there is some layer peeling that goes back there to where Jeffrey Rush will do a little bit of investigating and he'll see a picture of something that he's in, and you're like, oh, okay. So you kind of start piecing things together yourself, and then there's a big monologue near the end of the movie that John Lithgow gives that's kind of not really tells why he does things, but kind of, hints at things, and I like that because with that, you're able to piece everything together yourself. You're kind of like, okay, so he was this because of this, and he does it because blah, blah, blah. And it's one of the movies where it doesn't tie up everything in a perfect little bow and give you every explanation you're looking for. You kind of have to, follow along and do a little digging with yourself, which I really like movies like that because I like being able to think and really put two and two together. And why this one, for me, it was not hard to put together. I just it places those little like nuggets that it's just perfectly for anybody to follow. One thing I thought was just I thought was just funny as shit through this. I've seen people talk about this movie and stuff, and majority of the people were like, "Man, the caregivers at this rest home truly just did not give a shit." Like they were like, "Fuck it, whatever happens, happens." And there is a little bit of that because you can kind of see where they're coming from, because there are certain parts where John Lithgow has a certain badge that allows him to kind of move around freely throughout the facility. And it shows him a few times being able to dodge like the night shift people or the nurses or like, security and stuff like that. But I'm like, dude, how is this guy able to do all this? Because I was like, I don't know about rest homes, but I thought like they had cameras or something where you could monitor hallways and like main, the big rooms and stuff, and obviously cameras on the outside. And there is certain parts in this where you're like, dude, would nobody have seen this on camera, or would nobody have been walking by on a shift and been like, did nobody else see that? And, because there's parts where he's walking around outside. Again, you see him slip by people, but at the same time, you're like, wow, these guys either really didn't give a shit, or they never looked at tapes or really patrolled or or anything. So it's one of those moments like that where you kind of have to suspend belief a little bit, but I kind of don't take away from the movie because you're kind of so wrapped up in what's going on and how things are going to play out that you kind of you're able to do that like freely. You're kind of like, yeah, okay, that's one thing I'm a little all right, but sure, we'll see how this goes. I think too this movie has a little bit of dark humor to it, which I think it's sprinkled in throughout it, and it might be it's pretty subtle towards certain things, but I appreciated that because I did see where some people thought there was a lot of stuff that was just funny to them, and I can see because some of the stuff is ridiculous, like the way he humiliates people. You're like, damn, dude, like do something, like damn, you got to do something. So there's that little bit of ridiculousness that's sprinkled in, but it's got that black comedy edge to it, and I think it works for a movie like this. Again, we've had a lot of movies this year that does really good genre blending, and this is another one that adds in that, like you said, you got creepy and you got like a psychological thriller with great tension, but it's got that zest, just that little teeny zest of black comedy in there, and I think it just works. Like kudos this year. 2025 is like been the year of genre blending, like to a T. This is one of those movies that I think premiered at Fantastic Fest last year, and I heard about it, and immediately the premise caught me. I didn't watch any trailers for this movie. I just heard who was in it and what the premise was, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm in. I didn't even know which one was playing the crazy one. I didn't know if it was John Lithgow or Jeffrey Rush. I think either one of them could have pulled it off. fantastically. But it's one of those ones, yeah, I avoided the trailers for at all costs. Like I said, as soon as I heard the premise, I was like, you know what? I'm sold on that. But this is a movie, one of those little weird, obscure movies that I think will fly under the radar this year that I don't think anybody will really check out or kind of give their 2 cents about. And I don't know, I think it's one that it deserves to be seen because it's really well done. Like, it's really well directed. The atmosphere is really good because nursing homes are just creepy anyway. There's something, it's the same with hospitals and schools at like night. There's something that gives off that vibe where you're like, I don't like this. There's something wrong here. And between that and the atmosphere and, like I said, the location that you're set in, there's just something creepy overall about it. And I don't know, like I said, it's just, I don't think a lot of people is going to talk about it because it's really obscure and it's a very small, very, very small movie. But if you don't get a chance to see it in theaters, it's going to be on Shudder at the end of March. I think March 28th, I think is when it is going to premiere on Shudder. I think that's when it's going to be on there. So get a free trial for that. Get a free trial for Shudder. I mean, Shudder's only $5 anyway. I've got it. There's a lot of really, really obscure movies on there anyway. But this is not sponsored by Shudder, by the way. But it's just, I don't know. Like I said, it's a movie that I feel like people need to see. Even if you don't like the movie, it's really kind of worth it just for the performances. Like, especially John Lithgow. Like, just to see him be this, this psychopathic guy for an hour and a half, where he just the stuff that he does, you're like, dude, why are you the way that you are? And Jeffrey Rush, like I said, they both give fantastic performances in this movie. I would say check it out because I feel like this might be the most, so far this year, this might be the most different movie that you see. Like, it's a smaller movie, it's an indie movie, and it kind of throws something different into the mix where you're kind of like, okay, I saw that. This is one I would recommend checking out. Like I said, if you don't get a chance to see it at theaters, I don't even know if it's still playing. I think it's still playing at certain places, but I think at my theater it's already gone. Unfortunately, because I like I said, I doubt many people's going to go see it. But it will be on Shudder. I don't know about VOD in particular. Like, sometimes stuff will come to Shudder first, and then after a couple weeks to a month, then it pops up on VOD. Same with like certain exclusives, but I don't know. So if you're interested in checking it out, like I said, just get on Shudder at the end of the month, try it for a free trial, and check it out. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by to check this review out. If you have seen The Rule of Jenny Penn, please comment below and let me know what you thought about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts, whether you liked it, hated it, and all that good stuff. Start a good conversation with that down in the comments. Please check out all my other 2025 reviews if you have not. Please like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And as always, thank you guys so much for your support, and thank you for coming back to check out another review if you like what I'm doing. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.